Hello and welcome to Gaming Friday here on Off the Shelf Reviews. I'm Gary.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are taking a look back at Gun, one of the most generically named video game titles of all time. Gun. Came out in 2005 by Neversoft and Rebellion Developments. It was published by Activision Blizzard.
Yep.
And this one for me is a bit of a nostalgia trip. This for me was sort of the beginnings of the Xbox 360's life cycle and sort of the end of the original Xbox. This was one of those games that came out on both platforms.
Yeah.
And of course, when it came to the next generation consoles at the time, it was the time when we were undergoing the transformation from normal color TVs to high definition TVs.
Yeah.
For the first time. And so this was one of those games that I was excited to play because there was not really that many Western games out at the time.
No.
None that were going to look as pretty or as promising as this one.
Well, obviously, this one was the prologue before Red Dead Redemption came out.
It
Red
came
Dead
out
Redemption.
about 5 years before Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
which
but
we'll get
Red Dead
to a little bit
Redemption would
later. Yeah.
blow westerns out of the water. This one, yeah, I remember you got this one. You got, I think this one you got through. Is it Love Film?
No, I purchased
You
this game.
purchased this
I
one?
was excited to actually get a Western game. So this was a day one purchase for me on the Xbox 360, and I loved it. I absolutely
Loved it.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And mainly because the voice cast straight away just made it feel like it was a movie, like
Yeah.
it was a Western. And you want these characters, you want these voice actors. I mean, playing the main character right now, we got Thomas Jane,
Yeah.
who plays Colt.
Yeah.
And
Colt. What a name.
I mean, he's named after a gun, believe it or not. And so, I mean, Thomas Jane, I mean, not everybody's favourite actor. I mean,
I'm a bit of a fan. I
I'm
do like
definitely
him.
a fan of Thomas Jane. I mean, he's an interesting actor. He was Daredevil for some people, you know, but I think he gave a great performance in The Mist and some of his other straight to B movie nonsense I still enjoy
Did
as
you
well.
say Thomas Jane gave his best as Daredevil? You mean Punisher?
Punisher, yeah.
Punisher.
Yeah, sorry. The two of them have merged together ever so much. But of course, we also got Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah.
We've also got Chris Christopherson, who I believe right now is giving you the tutorial.
Yes, he's Ned, my father. He's my father.
We also have Brad Dourif, who, of course, just fantastic horror movie actor. He just lends, you know, that voice is just iconic. As soon as he laughs, you just see that Chucky doll.
But
And of course, lining out the cast, we also have Ron Perlman and Tom Skerritt.
yeah,
Now,
Dallas.
how many alien actors have we got in this voice cast?
3.
I think so, yeah. Oh, 4.
4? What's the fourth one?
Tom Skerritt, Ron Perlman, Brad Dourif, Lance
Ah,
Henriksen.
Ron Perlman. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally forgot about the Perlman.
So this game is set in the 1800s, 1880, I think it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of the locations and names of characters in this are actually taken from the real world history. I don't think we actually had an Empire City, though, which of course is where most of the game, well, sort of the hub world for this game is. And this is sort of an open world, kind of baby mini Grand Theft Auto, but with the Western skin.
Yeah, I remember this one's map is not very big, but it was massive when we first played it.
It felt massive
felt
when we first
massive.
played it because it was one of those games where you could actually get on horseback and go riding between
Yeah.
the towns.
Yeah.
Of course, it does now feel quite limited when you come back to look at it, you know, sort of 10 years later.
But this has got such a nostalgic appeal. I mean, I bought this as well for the PSP.
Well,
just
I mean,
because
this-
I had so much fun playing it on the 360. Being a cowboy, got wolves after me.
Well, I mean, the game was fairly successful. I mean, by 2008, so a fair few years after the game had released, it had sold more than 1.5 million copies.
Nice.
Which, you know, that's kind of a success, really. But it came out on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, PC, GameCube, PSP, And I believe the PSP version actually had a few additional features that none of the other console versions actually had.
I had a multiplayer, but nobody else had a PSP that I could line up and.
Okay, so yeah, don't really know how that multiplayer worked, but it did have a couple of extra missions, and I think it replaced a few weapons, or it added throwing knives. But nothing too major anyway. It was still just a...
Look at this. This is like old school first-person shooter.
It is a big clunky gun.
Didn't you say it was Neversoft? So this is precursor Call of Duty.
This is Neversoft before they eventually merged with Infinity Ward. Now, do you ever play many Neversoft games? Do you remember what they were most popular for? Was the Tony Hawk's series of games.
Yeah.
They were churning out, 2 a year?
Yeah.
You know? And...
Oh, shit. Sorry, Ned. I just shot Ned right in the crotch.
I'm sure he'll forgive you. I'm sure he's got bigger things to worry about later.
I missed the Tony Hawk games. I haven't played a Tony Hawk game in ages.
Well, the Tony Hawk games were huge and successfully and popular, and so everyone was kind of into the pro skating scene at the time, so the games were kind of a reflection of the culture as well. But yeah, Neversoft merged with Infinity Ward, and so they eventually would end up working, again, still with Activision, just on the Call of Duty franchise.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because Neversoft, when they did have the budget and they did have the team, made quite a surprising game, with this one being it that their background was Tony Hawk games. It was quite a departure. And as I've said, I remember this game fondly because of the cinematic nature of it, because of the voice actors, and because of the gameplay at the time. It was one of the first HD games that I played.
Yeah.
It looked nice. It sounded nice. The game actually won awards for its original music composition, which just tells you how cinematic that it is aiming to feel, despite now aging a fair amount with these graphics.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. I'm getting that whole Wild West feeling for it, though, because it's so old and not as fluid as Red Dead Redemption. I mean, look at this. I got to pick up the gun to fight a bear. A bear! Get some!
Well, the game did receive sort of positive to mediocre reviews when it came out. The main character, Colt, was listed in the top 5 action heroes of video games for the year that it came out. So he kind of got some recognition, at least. Of course, he would be overshadowed yet again by Red Dead Redemption's lead characters.
I'm going to shoot you in the face, bear. I'm going to shoot you in the face. No,
So it's kind of surprising that this game didn't get a sequel.
Come on.
Although they did sort of hint that this game was going to get a sequel.
Right in the face.
In one of the Tony Hawk's games, there's a poster for the main bad guy in this game, saying that it's Magruder's ghost, Gun 2.
Nice.
And that there was a poster that was in a Tony Hawk game. It turns out that Neversoft wanted to make Gun 2, but they didn't have the staff, or the resources, or the money to make it. Especially, they were also making the transition from programming old consoles to programming onto new consoles, and they were tasked with make more Tony Hawk games and make Gun 2, and they literally couldn't do it. Activision wanted it, but Neversoft just couldn't get around to it.
They wouldn't have beaten Red Dead Redemption. I mean, it had the open map, it had the online multiplayer.
Absolutely. Neversoft literally said in an interview that we know, or we feel like there is, or is going to be, a huge demand for the Western sort of environment, because it's ripe for storytelling in video games and nobody's doing it. So we want to do it, but we just can't. And literally, a few years later, Red Dead Redemption came out, and it was one of the best games, if not the best video game ever made, all time.
I don't know. This one's got a pretty badass story,
This one has
I've just remembered the story just from that opening sequence.
The story in this is kind of about the family vengeance initially. Like, I'm going to go and avenge my forefathers.
But there's the whole backstory with the whole gold cross that we saw in the cut sequence.
You're soon going to get sent off to go and meet Jenny and another reverend, and then this whole story about the lost city and its buried gold, and that's why the Apache warriors are defending it. That's why there's resistance warriors sort of wanting to find it. Then you've got the the lawless nature of Empire City and the bad guys that want the gold. So, I mean, the story and the setting is all kind of interesting. It starts off very realistic, but then soon becomes quite fantasy when it starts talking
Isn't
about...
this Lance Henriksen?
That's Brad Dourif right
Brad
there.
Dourif.
Yeah. So, the controversy, or sorry, the intrigue or about whether there will ever be a Gun 2 did come up again just 2 years ago in a Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
Call of Duty Ghosts has a Gun 2 poster within it. And of course, so you do know that Neversoft carry on making those games. There's still a chance. I guess it still gets kicked around the office. But I guess that, they come to the conclusion of, are we going to beat Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah.
No, we're probably not. So let's not bother. I think that, so, but as I did slip earlier, this game was surrounded with controversy when it came out. Can you hike in a guess as to what might have upset a few people with this game's release?
I'm thinking the massive violence in it. I just killed like a whole load of animals.
Well, yeah, it was violence, but believe it or not, the animal rights didn't kick off about animals being harmed in this game.
It just nailed her in the back with a tomahawk.
Back
of the head with a tomahawk.
Yep, and so the controversy was about racism in this game.
Wow.
There was a lot of arguments, and there were petitions and protests online to have this game called back from shelves.
Right.
Otherwise, they were going to try and make sure that they were going to legally make sure the game was pulled from shelves for its racially stereotyping Native Americans and Indians in this game and vilifying them all. And I can understand that. The Resident Evil 5, I think, went through a similar sort of thing when it was, where most of the characters you were fighting were Native Americans.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, you can't have a video game where 90% of your targets are black men. You can't do it. And so with this game, it's like, well, you can't make a game where you're killing all these Indians because, you're not portraying them properly. So Activision and Neversoft literally turned around and went, okay, so we're not allowed to do it in video games, but it's okay in books, it's okay in movies, it's okay in TV shows, but not in video games. And then you can only just look at controversy surrounding every other video game that's come out, and you can argue, oh, it's just a video game, it's just fun. Or you can argue that it shouldn't be taken as seriously.
Shooting these guys.
Yeah, the kind of ragdoll death animations are kind of fun. The guns kind of have a lot of stopping power. I should say that there are multiple difficulty levels on this game, and it is one of those annoyances where you do have to complete the game on each difficulty level in order to unlock said achievement for that difficult level. You can't just start on the max difficulty and then unlock all of the easier difficulty achievements at the same time as a result. So for completionists out there, it's one of those where you'll have to complete it 4 or 5 times anyway. But it was still, I did that. I do have the 1,000 points on this game. I did enjoy the game that much that I wanted to keep coming back to it. Despite the controversy about the racism, it was kind of laughed off, and Activision literally turned around and said, look, we wanted to portray this era in American history as authentically as possible while showing the sort of harsh environment that these characters might have lived in at the time.
Harsh environment. I'm firing cannons at guys in...
Well, you're an action hero of the game, so it's it's understandable. But yeah, vilifying and just blowing up all these Native Americans and whatnot, it's
well, these guys are I'm thinking these guys are rebels, not rebels, the South, trying to get the gold back.
Quite possibly, yet there are a lot of internal conflicts that go on within the game. Now, we are literally still doing the prologue here. We're still just getting into the story proper. And as you can see, the game is broken down into quite a lot of different sort of mini-games. Yeah. You have the first-person sort of view mode. You have the third-person. You also have, typical as Red Dead Redemption would also borrow from, is poker. The game, you go to the salon, you sit down and play poker. You can also cheat at it.
The
saloon, sorry.
The salon, get your hair done.
Yeah, get your hair done at the same time as play some poker instead of the poker dice. You could also go cattle herding. So, you know, go and ride around, bring all the cattle back in.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's also law enforcement, as you will eventually
Bounty
become
hunter and
the sheriff of the town.
Yeah.
And then you can go and collect bounty missions, bring them back dead or alive. So that's sort of where the open world aspect sort of comes into play. But, you know, the side missions are optional. But, you know, when you're playing on the harder difficulties, you'll want to do them at the same time as going exploring and going mining and finding these gold ore veins.
I remember now, you had to find the treasure map so that you could go find the gold veins and then you got more money.
That's right, yep. So that's a way of them being able to purchase upgrades for the various weapons and whatnot, which, you know, lets you fire faster or lets you go into bullet time for longer. And that's to say that the combat system's pretty fluid. You know, you can see in the bottom left corner, you've got your whiskey jar, you've got your health bar, you've got your ammo counter and how many bullets until you've got to reload. And you can also see that your quick draw meter is currently full and blinking.
Yeah.
Which means when you activate it, you go into slow-mo time, and it literally enables you to kill like up to 15 guys in a single fluid sort of quick fire action.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the mainstay, and again, kind of is, you know, of the Western genre. You want to be the quick draw, and you want to gun all these people down. Of course, there's a couple of sort of on the rails minigun sort of turret sections. There's what's I find is quite exciting is there's the horse chasing sections.
Yeah.
You can also get into close combat whilst on horseback, a little bit like Road Rash. You can punch your other people off. You can actually kill their horses as well, and then you can go and trample over their bodies to finish them off. There's also some pretty barbaric and brutal melee kills in the game.
Yeah.
Where you can use your Tomahawk, and you can even scalp enemies as well, take their scalps. So it can be pretty brutal, and it's kind of fun, and it's kind of satisfying as well.
Yeah, I just got a lot of satisfaction out of shooting those guys in the face.
Well, there's also, you know, your typical variety of weapons.
Bang.
You always have your revolver. There's also the shotgun, a rifle, and as I've said, the minigun. You also get Molotovs.
Dynamite.
And dynamite,
yeah. Always gotta get the dynamite. Bang, 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 right in the face. Kind of so nostalgic.
So you're currently playing the game in, how is the controls for you right now?
Oh, well, you know me. I can get into pretty much any game once I get the grasp of it. It's trying to remember exactly, you know, how long of a bar I've got of the quick draw, because I'm pretty sure you can extend it as the game goes on. So I'm so used to having a longer bar that
so
it runs down so much quicker, and I'm like, Jesus, I've got to run around more and obviously shooting people to build up the bar again. No, Chris Christopherson can't die.
He dies in everything.
Not everything. Blade 1, he didn't die.
No, he did. He died.
No, he
yes,
came back.
No, but he was dead at the end of Blade 1.
Well, kind of. You know. Oh.
But he's got to go out, and of course, in a blaze of glory.
I'm pretty sure later on in the game we come back to this boat, don't we?
I don't recall all of the missions. Most of the missions do involve going somewhere, finding somebody, killing all of his henchmen, and then killing him.
Oh, look at that design on the front of the train. I mean,
there is a couple of very cool train robbery / type missions later in the game as well. I think there's a nice diverse amount of stuff to do in the game to keep you interested.
Yeah, well, you've got these big evil figures now. I mean, we've got Brad Dourif, the Spanish conquistador armor-wearing motherfucker. And then we've got obviously
his giant bodyguard.
Lance
Again,
Henriksen
all
with
of these
the one
characters are sort of based or inspired by real characters as well. It's kind of interesting to look up who they were.
Ooh.
And of course, you know, they are great villains. They are fantastic villains, and they're brought to life so brilliantly as well. You know, the graphics are kind of the only thing that holds it back.
Well, but look,
I know, as you said,
nostalgic. It's just, you know, it's one of those games that if you owned it, you played it, you'd remember it.
Yeah.
You know, and you'd be like, oh god, it looks so ropey, but I remember that bit. I mean, I'm remembering the first
you
town
remember
you
the
come
set
to.
pieces, yeah.
Yeah. Don't steal it.
So yeah, on the whole, I had a very good time playing the game. It was something that I kept coming back to as well, because as I said, from the release of this one up until Red Dead, the only other sort of series of Western games, which would be amiss if I didn't mention, was the Call of Juarez series.
Yeah.
And I got to say, the first one in that series was, by and large, a valiant attempt, but it was, by and large, terrible.
Yeah.
It was ropey, it was ugly, it controlled badly, it was designed poorly, but it had the potential. It was there. The promise was there. I really, really enjoyed the second Call of Juarez game. I thought it was fantastic story. They took it in a new direction. They polished, they polished it to what it was, and it was an enjoyable game. The third Call of Juarez game was kind of modern day, sort of Mexican drug cartels and whatnot, didn't really capture the spirit of what the original two games were trying for. And so, as much as I played it through, but instantly forgettable. But I kept coming back to Gun, because there wasn't that many good horse riding games either. Not that I wanted a horse riding simulator, but just the fluid movement of it, just the
Can you make
the ability.
your horse get really exhausted? When you work down that green bar on the right.
I think so. Yep. You can actually kill your horses by working them too hard and making them sprint too far.
Yeah. You have to stop. You have to completely stop to get it to
get them to regenerate. Yeah.
That's what I was just asking. Left bumper, slowing down will heal your horse.
So there will be some time-sensitive missions later on where you'll need to get from A to B quicker. There'll also be times when you literally need to race your horse to death, kill it, jump on another horse to carry on riding to where you need to get to.
You know you want some of this, Mr. Buffalo.
Of course, you will get better horses later on in the game as well, and eventually a horse which I think doesn't run out of stamina at all.
Yeah, should I just waste resources and just kill this buffalo? We could eat buffalo tonight, John. What's his name, John? Can't remember his name.
John Marsden.
Oh, yeah, John Marsden. You just want me to ride around on my horse, don't you?
So the game, as you can see, it is open world-esque.
It's not really sandbox, is it?
It's not
like
really
a
sandbox.
It's
very linear. There's a few branching paths, and of course, as you mentioned before, there is a map, sort of, in the bottom right corner, a compass.
There's the map.
Which is, you can see that there are these open areas, but then the pathways that literally lead you to them. Yeah. And of course, there are hidden objects and collectibles and gold veins hidden everywhere. And they are a nightmare to collect as well, because a lot of them will also be hidden in bushes, which you just wouldn't ever expect to. You'd have to keep walking through, like a field, and just keep pressing the A button until you eventually came across it and found it.
Horse racing.
I do remember that being very, very aggravating and an annoyance whilst playing, and one of the reasons why I also abandoned collectibles in games. I'm just realizing how, when you compare this to something like I said, Red Dead Redemption, it's like, well, you just can't. The only ways you could compare it is in terms of story, and yet I have to feel that Red Dead Redemption trumps this game in story as well, because this game's story does eventually just become pretty generic and pretty standard, whereas the whole of Gun's sort of story would fit nicely as sort of a chunk change side stories and missions in a Red Dead Redemption type game. It's not expanded enough. But the characters, though, most definitely, especially being voiced by great Hollywood talent.
I'm trying to activate this race.
Or fan favourites, at any rate.
I can't remember how to... Get ready to race. Alright, okay, I'm ready.
Okay. And Cletus is going to let you go now.
Go.
So again, the racing sequences is just to get you used to being able to ride quickly around.
I'm going to kill my horse.
The map. I think you are going to kill your horse. You almost killed it.
I think I've almost
killed it. Shame you can't kill Cletus on the way. And you can see some gold hidden over there between the rocks.
Totally missed the gold. There's a tree.
The environment's pretty much the standard as well. It's pretty much going to be foliage, forest. There's a few sort of desert areas, a couple of waterfalls, as you can see over there.
But weirdly enough, the map is so small. It's like this little section will be grass area, and right next door will be the desert.
Yeah, but it's
Ah, I messed up the race.
you
Right,
were
okay,
called a
Colm.
cheater. I think you were. I think the game was really just saying you lost so badly. We're just gonna restart it for you. So we're gonna give you one more attempt at this race, Ian, before we close out.
Yep. Come on. I'm riding my horse. My horse is not as
Yeah,
fast as yours.
I think you've got to hold the button as well. You can't just keep spamming it to kill your horse.
You gotta hold it. I killed
We're
my
gonna
horse.
send you back to the ranch, Ian. Get
Yeah.
some
Well,
more
I haven't
horse
ridden a
riding
horse in
lessons.
like 20 years. Usually tanks and helicopters. Go.
So I mean,
there we go.
this game
I
is
got it.
still available to purchase, I think, on Steam. It is obviously a nostalgia one. It's going to be fairly, it's probably still fairly easy to get copies of it now if you wish to go back and have a look at it. I think if you've never played it, it's definitely worth checking out. Just play it through the once, even on the easier difficulty, just to play it through for the story, just to see the performances of Brad Dourif, Ron Perlman, Lance Henriksen, who just do great voice work in the game.
Go spur the horse. Go.
I think if you never played it, I think you're probably gonna miss out on one of the best Western games that have, video games that there was. Considering Red Dead Redemption, as we've repeatedly said, is overshadowed and dominates that market completely, and probably will do once its sequel, as been rumored, will be unveiled later this year. I imagine.
Ride the horse. Oh, what third lap? How many laps is it?
Well, while you ride the third lap, I just want to say thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday with another video game. Of course, our film reviews are up on Thursdays. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Patreon. You got any closing words, Ian? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, riding this horse is a lot more difficult than you think. Oh, jump over. Gonna kick it and I won the race. Woohoo!
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.